Welcome, everyone, to the What Would You Change movie podcast. We are the Super Monkey Fighters. Monkey Feathers over there, Nugget right there, and I'm Loki. This week we're going with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, the 2017 film, written and directed by Martin McDonagh, stars Frances McDormand, Caleb Landry Jones, Carrie Condry, Sam Rockwell, Alejandro Barrios, Woody Harrelson, Abbie Cornish, Lucas Hedges shows up in that. Zeljo Ivanek, who you guys will know is the guy from that thing. Clark Peters shows up. John Hawkes, you'd recognize his face at least. Peter Dinklage makes an appearance a couple of times. You don't know what this movie's about, based off of the name. It's literally just about three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is really just the story of a mother who personally challenges the local authorities to solve her daughter's murder when they fail to catch the culprit. Martin McDonagh, I like everything I've seen that he's done. Seven Psychopaths, In Bruges, they are all amazingly hilarious / depressing films. I don't know, this one. I think that would summarize Three Billboards pretty accurately. So
I don't know if I would consider this movie a depressing film. I think I would consider this movie more realistic in... I guess
life is depressing.
Well, not depressing, but realistic in expectations of life, in that things don't always work out. It's not the way of life. You don't always catch the bad guy in the end and you live happily ever after. Things happen. It's life. And so I wouldn't necessarily look at it as depressing. I just think of it as more realistic representation of life.
I think I'll put that firmly in my likes column on this movie, is it doesn't follow your movie formula.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Here's your three acts. Here's the good guys. Here's the bad guys. I mean, even if it's not like a war movie kind of a thing, it's like there are clearly antagonists and protagonists and da-da-da-da. Like, it does have those, but they kind of change and evolve.
It morphs.
And it doesn't follow that flow, and yeah. Some big unexpected things happen, like life, where you don't expect this to be the thing that's going down. And so I think one of the reasons why this movie stands out as so good to me is because it's not as predictable as a lot of other movies go. So,
but in a good way.
It's also good because, I mean, speaking of antagonists and protagonists and life in general, there's nobody in this movie who is like the perfect hero, right? They're all kind of...
They're
just
flawed.
people, right?
Yeah.
They're all doing terrible things back and forth to each other and good things towards each other.
Yeah. I think with this movie, one of my favorite characters would be Mildred, because she has a no-nonsense, I'm not going to take your crap attitude, but she still is a mother and still has a caring side to her. One of the scenes that always stands out to me is when she's arrested for drilling a dentist's thumb.
Yes, that's the scene, yeah.
And she and Chief Willoughby are in a discussion where he's trying to antagonize her and she's not going to let it happen. And he ends up coughing blood on her because he has pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
But as soon as he coughs blood on her, she automatically switches into like, oh, like, I know you didn't mean to do this. Let me get help.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It switched from an antagonizing behavior from both of them into like, I'm so sorry. And it was, in my opinion, really good acting, but it did show more depth to a character because they're people.
It's weird because they're at odds because of these billboards, but they're working together to try and solve a crime. And so, plus they're part of a community, and they seem to know each other, at least partly, better than most, at least, I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it showcases that subtlety and that intricacy really well. And that scene, I was going to bring that scene up, because that scene is, I think, the perfect example of this movie is that, where we're fighting each other until something big happens, and then we're there for each other. And then we're back to, doing our things. So.
And it's another example with Mildred and her ex-husband, because he shows up, he's angry about the billboards, and then it turns into a comforting session in a way where he's showing guilt for not being there or doing anything for his daughter. And so...
And then turns into him.
Yeah.
Antagonizing and...
Yeah, those are some interesting moments and scenes, and it's, I think, one of the better characters with, I don't even remember what her name was. She works at the zoo, smells like shit.
Samara
the 19-year-old, yeah. The 19-year-old girlfriend of her ex-husband.
Yeah.
Just kind of that dumb, oblivious, I don't know what's going on, so I can't be invested in this, but I'm just here kind of approach to things. It's an attitude that I actually envy. Yes. No, wait. What's the one with horses? Yes.
Polo. Yes, that.
Or, I need to go to the bathroom, but this looks like I am interrupting. I can hold it. I'll come back. We talk about this a lot in the movie podcast. The characters. If the characters are believable and enjoyable and you can connect with them, you're going to like this movie. And I don't think there's a character in this movie that isn't at least enjoyable. You might not connect with fully, but you will find somebody that
they're interesting to watch.
They're interesting to watch, and you can at least empathize with their situation, or especially by the end, you might maybe understand some things a little bit more about them, because there's so much to them. Even some pretty simple, dumb characters showcase some pretty big moments of growth and things like that in this movie. So,
and I think that's really what this movie has going for it. Is it doesn't feel like one that all the characters are kind of following their prescribed script in life. It's they go through it and they act stupid. They act like real people, and they kind of are figuring things out, and we're along for the ride. And that's what makes it feel real about it, compared to films where it's like, yep, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy. We know what they're going to do because we know that's what they are. And like, there isn't that growth there because they're already playing their prescribed roles, where this one, there is no prescription. Like, there's just people in a town trying to figure things out and deal with the realities of life.
Well, and I think it showcases kind of intelligence types a little bit better, where, you know, people think of like smart is a black and white kind of a thing. Either you're smart or you're not. And you're intelligent in the things that you're intelligent about. Everybody's smart about something, and they're smart in a way that other people might not be. And Sam Rockwell's character showcases that beautifully, because he is one of the dumbest people in this entire show. And rather than just showcasing him as like the stupid deputy that doesn't do anything, he's not Barney Fife.
The cliche dumb.
The cliche dumb, because he has those moments, but then he has moments of brilliance as a police officer, because that's what he's wanted to be. That's where he's put his attention. That's how he's good. And so when the police station's on fire, he grabs the file that's important because he sees that that's on fire. Most people might just be like, oh, the building's on fire, I'm going to get out. He overhears the guy talking about, bragging about murdering some girl. And so he cleverly goes out and gets his license plate, tries to seem nonchalant about it, starts a fight with the guy by, scratches him so he can get some DNA. And then, he's really smart about that. But then the next scene where the police chief is talking to him, he can't figure out where the guy's like, oh no, he wasn't even in the country. He was out of the country. I talked to his commanding officer and it's classified. He's like, I don't know where it is. He's like, I'll give you a hint. It was Sandy. That doesn't narrow it down any. Like, he doesn't know about the world because he's not educated in that, but he knows about police work, and he did a really good job with that. And it showcases that really well, back and forth within things. So.
Yeah, I thought that was very well acted, that character. Yeah. Just watching him, he's just like, you're being such an idiot. You're like and I think the reason I liked it, like, I've met people like that you can just see. It's like, how do you not comprehend any of this? Like, I feel sorry for you. That's what it's like. That went overwhelmed with me.
And then any interaction he has with any other person is just, he doesn't have the people skills in the way that the chief does. Right? That's why the chief is the one who's doing those kinds of things. And the chief's storyline. There's the story of two chiefs, Willoughby, because he does die halfway through. Just seeing how he balance that he's trying to keep within the community and within his family and within the police department and within all of these kinds of things, trying to do right by everybody effectively while dying of cancer. I think his story showcases, that type of character very well. That type of person very well. That's why he's the police chief and not just the desk sergeant, right? The desk sergeant he's just angry and yelling, and he's kind of dumb, and that's why he works the desk, is he's not the guy who's going to go out, and he's the guy who files paperwork. He's not the guy who
talks to people and
not the guy who goes out and talks
cases.
to people and helps with those kinds of things and comforts people when they're, and you see him struggle with that, where he's got to go. He's like, well, I guess I've got to go and say something to everybody now that the chief's dead, because he's kind of the next in line, but he's not necessarily good at that, and so they don't really focus on his. But you hear what's going on in the background, and it's just run of the mill. Like, if there were a handbook on what to do in this situation, he's just reading the handbook kind of a thing, because that's his character. So
yeah, something that I did really enjoy about this movie is how this crime, this death, affects people differently. Because you have Mildred, who she got in an argument with her daughter, and basically the last words from both of them was, "I hope you get raped." And the daughter even says, like, "I hope I get raped." And, that's what ends up happening, unfortunately. And it goes from her character being the laid-back, chill mother to the "I'm going to find my daughter's killer." And she's doing everything that she can to find her daughter's killer. And then you have the son who just wants to forget about it, and he wants to move on and move past it, but he can't, because these billboards are a constant reminder of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
You have the police chief who it's not necessarily that they forgot, it's just their evidence doesn't match anyone, so they can't arrest anyone.
And he even says that in his letter at the end, right, where it's this is how these cases go. There's nothing for 5 years, and then somebody overhears something, and you get the guy.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then you have the dad who he shows anger and guilt over the fact that his daughter came to him, wanted to move in with him, and he's like, no, you should stay with your mom. It's what's best. And he expresses guilt because, what if he had given in and his daughter was living with him instead?
And anger, and that's really, this movie is about grief and grieving and just sorrow, and that's everybody showcases how this acts differently, and so
and it leads into one of the other really, really great things that I like about this movie is that there is no happy ending. It's not neatly wrapped up in a bow where, they caught the killer and this guy really was the one that, murdered her daughter. It's not the case. And that's the situation with a lot of people who they're waiting for that one little piece of detail that's going to bring their daughter home or solve the case of, whoever took or killed or did whatever to this family member. It's not wrapped up in a bow, because that's not always the case in reality. And that's something that I did really enjoy about it.
Towards the end of the film, it seems like there's a bit more of a lesson that everybody learns, right, with forgiveness. And it's the Polo or Polio book where, anger begets anger, or whatever it was, where they seem to kind of understand that they've all been just kind of doing this to each other, and nobody's just, taken the bigger path and moved on. It seems like everybody kind of, Mildred learns that, and Sam Rockwell's character, right? Because he's an angry racist, not necessarily even just racist, just angry at everything and everyone. He just takes out in ways that
he can't control his anger.
Yes. And he does racist things without realizing that they're racist and the implications of that, because he's just angry all the time. And that's kind of the lesson he needs to learn. And he gets that through forgiveness with his arc. But they kind of learn that. And then right after that, they discover a potential suspect and find out that he's not actually the suspect, and then decide to go and kill him anyway because they know he did something wrong. But while they're driving off, they have some second thoughts. Are you sure you want to do this? And they're like, I don't know. And they're like, well, I guess we'll decide on the way, kind of thing. And that's where the movie ends. So after having learned that lesson, they still decided to go and potentially kill someone because of that. And so the question is, what do you think they decided on that drive? Do you think they actually went through with it? Do you think they didn't?
I'm going to say no, they didn't.
I just imagine them 2 miles later stopped at a cafe eating pancakes.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah.
That they didn't make it even to Idaho. It was just, you know what? Let's not do this. We'll just stop at a cafe and have pancakes. But again, it is an open ending. It's not the cut and dry, yeah, they drive to Idaho and they murder this other rapist. It's...
Do they go and continue that cycle, or did they actually learn from it? Because you can easily see that even after they learned the lesson, when the thing that they've wanted for so long is presented to them, that they would maybe make that choice in the moment. But then once they've had time to think, they might change their mind. So
yeah, and I think what they're trying to show is they've all been kind of quick to react throughout the movie, but when they have time to think about it and to kind of stew on it, then that their opinion or how they would react would change.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're kind of showing.
Well, and even as they've tried to think through things like burning the police station, right? She's standing across the street, making phone calls, nobody's there, and then she starts throwing Molotov cocktails. And then somebody comes flying through the building, so she kind of sees the implications firsthand of what she's done. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, a lot of the actions in this movie are rash decisions. Mm-hmm. It's not someone thinking about it until the very end, where they have time to think about it, because it's always just, you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back right away. And there is no thought. There is no, I guess, emotional positive thought to figure things out. It's just the negative reactions to anything.
Maybe that's the better lesson to take from this, because that's exactly the argument that mother and daughter have the day that she's murdered, is they're just reacting back and forth with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's where that statement comes from. Another question, because you guys probably didn't even think of this one, is Dixon's mother dead or alive at the end of it?
My first thought was she was dead.
She seems to be asleep on the couch, but not in a way that you would comfortably sleep on a couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me, I thought about it, where I thought, did she overdose? Did he kill her?
Did he?
Because he looked like he was about to kill himself with a shotgun. Yep. You don't know, but it looked like he was going to. So did he kill her before he killed himself? Before he was going to kill himself?
Yeah. And then when he's ends the scene, he's just kind of touching her forehead with 3 fingers. It's a weird gesture. They have a very weird relationship the entire time as well. I'm curious if there was a deleted scene where it was that, yes, she had died, and that's why he was doing what he was doing, and then got thinking about those kinds of things. So
the only thing I'll add in is I'm glad the one thing that I can tell if a movie is good or not to me is if it can keep my attention, and this one definitely kept my attention the entire time.
Yeah, I will say final good thing, unless anybody else has anything to say. Perfect scene for gender equality. When they're at the high school and the kid throws a can at her car.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes out there and kicks a guy in the crotch and then kicks a girl in the crotch.
There's no discrimination here.
No discrimination. Equal opportunity assault of a minor. To transition to some of the negatives, there are a lot of crimes in this movie that just don't. actually become crimes. So.
Yeah, that's a problem that I had, is especially with police brutality. The one that clearly stands out, I think, for anyone who watches this, is where Dixon beats up Red and then throws him out the window. All that happens is he gets fired from his job. There's no arrest for him assaulting someone.
He's got a new police chief who clearly doesn't like him right off the bat, who witnesses the entire thing.
Yeah.
And just fires him, doesn't arrest him, and Like that's
Doesn't make any sense.
And it's even beyond assault. It's he threw him out of a second story window. I mean, that would be attempted murder.
You could have
And
killed
while
him.
in uniform. It's like,
While in uniform, and But even then, that's the crotch kicking, like in full view of everyone
Other
around.
students.
An adult just kicked two kids, like, and parents just stand there and look like nothing happens. Like, it's
the thumb drill with the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a he said she said situation. But it's still there's not much that comes from it.
she did get arrested for it, though.
She did get arrested, and she was making her case, but
But that's kind of how you think or would imagine the police department is ran in a small town in Missouri. It's kind of, if the chief says it, then that's what we do.
I had a moment where I was thinking, like, when I was watching it as well, where I was like, I've got to pick out things I don't like. And then I saw something and instantly thought, that's way too nitpicky. But it was Dixon, after he's been through the fire and he's got scars on his face. He still has all of his hair. And I don't know why that moment stuck out to me as, wouldn't his hair have burnt out? Like, it's enough to burn his skin, but he's got like a perfect haircut. Like, but then I got thinking about all those other things where it's like, all of these crimes that everybody's committed, like, nobody seems to really care too much about, there was arson against the billboards. Nobody was really looking into that. As far as we know, there was, the killer
arson
dude who
against
showed
the
up.
Arson
against the
station.
police. Yeah.
And
they're like,
it just was kind of, oh, okay, you have an alibi. And then the dude walks away.
Deus Ex Dinklage in that scene. That's where he randomly walks around a corner to save the day and be an alibi. Like, it was, he was established as a character earlier, but you don't see him until then. And all of a sudden, it's literally he walks around the corner like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta put a guy out. This guy's on fire. I gotta,
help him,
and then provide an alibi for the person who obviously burned the police station down. So
that he obviously has an interest in,
and presses his advantage on that scene as well. But
a little blackmail.
I dislike the fact that she just turns into a violent person where she assaults people, she burns down a police station, and granted, at the end, it's the ambiguous ending. You don't know what they're going to do, but they're kind of set on killing someone else, a rapist. And I dislike that behavior because it doesn't portray a positive growth in a character where you're learning from your mistakes and you're learning from your actions. And the ending's ambiguous, so you could leave it that, they do learn and they don't end up killing the guy. But they just turn into violent people, and then you have this, I don't know if he would ever become a cop again, but you have this ex-cop who's just willing to kill someone else as well. And it's just like, come on.
Well, that's kind of what we're going back to the is his mom dead or alive question, because I think if she's dead, that would motivate him more, right? Where he's just like, all right, I've got nothing else, no job, no family, I'm just. And
it does make sense because he has nothing good to tie him to be good. And I get it, but even then, it's this ex-cop who I mean, he's been assaulting people and doing petty arrests.
Of torturing a person in custody of a person of color. Person of color torture, as he says it. So.
Yes, a person of color, because that's how you have to describe it.
Yes.
But you have this cop who for years has been trying to uphold the law, all of a sudden turns around and he's going to kill someone else. I have some problems with that.
Nugget, anything stood out to you?
The 3D animated deer.
That's my change. It's just
it totally stood out.
Just take that scene out, and
I liked that, not the 3D animated deer, but the scene itself and what this character was going through as she was talking.
I'm just talking about the deer.
The deer.
Okay. Because when you said take that scene out,
I would take the entire scene out.
Yeah.
So
I know it's hard to get a real deer, of course, but
They're just a better 3D animated deer.
yeah.
Just blend the lighting a little bit better.
It's the lighting that really throws it off.
I'm sixes on whether it was a 3D model deer or if it was just they filmed it and then it was bad compositing, trying to pull it out of another scene kind of a thing. But it stands out as bad. And I will refer to that scene for the context of the scene as beating a 3D rendered deer to death. I get it. She's sad. I get it that she's not like, you've already established this. You're just showing me it again kind of a thing. Like it just, if it was there, if it was gone, the story stayed the same. You don't learn anything new about the character in that. Like, I mean, this is again a mixed bag for me. This is a very heavy movie, and it's not my first time seeing it. It deals with some very emotional situations, and as soon as you start empathizing with it and start thinking and putting yourselves in those situations and what would happen, it gets really heavy. And the second time around, third time around, I don't even know how many times I've seen it, it doesn't get easier. It seems to be worse. Like, knowing what's coming just makes those moments hit a lot harder. Especially, I think, the police chief, where you know Willoughby's going to kill himself. And so you're seeing the perfect day that he's built for his family before he does it. And you know what's coming. Like, the first time around, that's a shock. Like, that's a, holy crap, what just happened kind of a moment. Which tends to be how those moments go for a lot of people. The second time around, you know what he's doing, what he's planning, why he's doing the things he's doing. And it just... it was a difficult movie to watch just another time for me.
That's what's interesting, is because I had seen it once before, and then watching it again for this, I had forgotten that he killed himself until like he's walking out of the stable and he puts the hood over his head. I thought, oh yeah, I forgot that he did that.
But every other scene with that, where anytime they showed the burnt ground right at the billboards, like every time you see the billboards, because that's the thing that they don't really address. It seemed like it stood out more in the film, in my memory at least. The billboards are like a quarter of a mile away from their house. And the billboards are where she was raped and murdered. And so she was killed within view of her kitchen. So her mom could have been home looking out the window while it was happening. Like, that's, they don't draw attention to that. But every time you see it, it just adds this layer of sadness. So every time you see Frances McDormand by herself and just the sadness and sorrow that she has on her face all the time, like, it just, everything hits so much harder, I think, the second time around, which is good and bad because, Nugget, you said it held your attention. It held my attention, but there were times where I was just like, I kind of want to stop because I feel bad. But then I was like, but that's what a good movie should do. A good movie should make you feel something. So it's a mixed bag for me, where I'll discuss it in the negative column, but I think that's a sign of a very good movie. So. Also, I will say that the alleged bad guy, criminal dude they're going to go and kill at the end, could have probably replaced him with any of 24 other actors and probably got a better performance. So I don't know. Again, good or bad. I don't like him, but I'm not supposed to like him. And so it's.
You should not be sympathizing with this character.
You shouldn't be. But he also just kind of shows up out of nowhere. Like, saw you on the news from halfway across the country. So I decided to show up and
That's what didn't make sense to me, is like, what? Why is he like going into the gift shop and like harassing her? Like, what is his motive? Like, why is he like, they don't explain or resolve any of it. It's just like, okay, he's just a weirdo and I'm just going to just assume that and that's good enough. Like, I feel like it was a little shallow.
Yeah, because it seems like it's a trick to get you to think he's the bad guy. He's the guy who did it, right? Because he's the guy in the bar later, right? So you're like, oh, he came in, so clearly he's the one who did it, but he doesn't match the DNA. And so then you start getting into the conspiracy theory things, which that's not what this movie's about. This movie's not a crime drama about catching this killer. It's about the grief and sorrow that comes from something like this.
And the potential growth of characters and how they evolve.
And how the town deals with all of those kinds of things. Because when she puts up the billboards, the priest comes by and they hear it a bunch of different times. Even the police chief kind of does it with the doctor, right? Where it's just like, we're all with you on trying to find the killer, but nobody's with you on the billboards. Everybody's picking sides on this, and the police chief understands like this isn't a sides kind of a thing, guys. Like this is like, yes, I want the billboards down. Yes, I don't want this. He does even say, it looks like we're going to war. He thinks that this isn't going to help find the case. She does. And it's that conflict with that. So but seeing how the town reacts to that, where the fat dentist, he's going to just pull her tooth and just cause her pain. And he's like, Bill Willoughby's got some friends or something like that. That's what he says. Like he's trying to do like action hero quips while he's causing
trying
pain
to intimidate her and threaten her.
And that's the thing. It's, you see how the town reacts, but like when you see Willoughby and
Mildred.
Like when they're sitting together talking about it, like they have a relationship, like, and I think they understand each other. It's just that Mildred doesn't want to accept the answer. She doesn't want to accept that, like, there is nowhere to go. Like, there are no leads. Yeah. And so this is her only way of acting out that she feels will help, even though it clearly doesn't affect anything. And so, and that's what Willoughby's trying to kind of communicate to her. And, like, he's not going in there heavy-handed and be like, you need to take these down, like Dixon would, where he's just, like, trying to threaten his way through getting change. But then you show how, like, kind of the town reacts to it, which is, it is kind of, they pick a side or they don't, which is completely different than, like, the relationship between Mildred and Willoughby and everything else. It's like it's that assumption of everything that people take that
it's the news reaction to it.
Exactly. And that's what I kind of like about this film, is that it showcases that it's like, like you can see something, you can get information third hand and have a reaction to it that it has no basis on the reality of the situation.
Let's jump into changes. We know mine. I would change the deer scene. I would just remove it entirely. I wouldn't even, as I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? You get to the end of it, she's just kind of sad and she's talking about reincarnation, about how you're not the daughter, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. Like, by that point in time in the film, I already understand Mildred entirely. So to me, it was just, it was... Beating
a dead deer.
Beating a 3D deer. A bad 3D deer. It was just more of the same. It was just like, this just feels like you're just hammering this point home again and again and again. So if it was gone, I think it would have removed the bad deer, which would have helped keep me in the movie more. And I just, because the scene right after it, I can't even remember what scene it is, but I was just like, actually, I would have loved it to have just transitioned right to this scene. I think it's something with Dixon.
I would have liked more accountability for assaults in this town. Because, as we mentioned with Dixon throwing a guy out the window in front of the new temporary chief, and nothing happens. He's not arrested. It's just, you're fired. Okay, great. He goes back to the house he shares with his mother, and that's that. Yeah. Or even Mildred, who assaults underage teenagers.
Or the bar scene with Dixon at the end. I mean, there's a lot of them that happen.
And I just, more accountability, because the bar scene where Dixon, he did relatively start it with the scratching of the dude, but the guy just beats the crap out of him, and he goes away into the world, and nothing happens. So I know that it would really change how this movie ended and how this movie flowed, because if you have people in jail, they can't then do other things. But I would have preferred more accountability for the assaults instead of just swept under the rug. I don't think a police chief's just going to be, you're fired. Great, go about your day. After witnessing an assault on someone else.
He's standing outside the police department, like, holding his coffee, and he's just kind of, like, nonchalant about the entire thing while it's happening as well. Like, There's a
Well,
couple of those things that are very movie-like. So he does walk over.
at the same time, I
help.
think that shows him as the chief, right? He's not the, as you would say, it was like, that's the reason Dixon's Dixon and the chief's the chief. Like, he's not the quick to react rashly.
Yeah.
Like, he's watching this unfold, but he's analyzing the situation. Like, he's sitting back and watching, because he's going in blind into this new role. And he's like, that's the first thing I see. Like, I'm sure the entire time he's trying to process, how am I going to deal with this?
But at the same point in time, it's how would he react to a car crash, right? Would he just stand by and analyze it while the car starts on fire, kind of a thing, or would he jump into action and respond?
Potentially try and save someone.
And so, but that's more of kind of what I'm talking about. Where like the whole thing with Dixon, like he's going to try and figure out how to do that, but he just watched a man get thrown out of a building who's bleeding and crawling across the ground with broken legs. Like I would think that his first reaction would be to run up and render aid, kind of a thing. But maybe that's just me projecting a bit more. So that's more of what I'm getting at is instead of just standing there drinking his coffee and like, well, I guess I got to go deal with this shit now. Like that's kind of the attitude I got from that scene, and not, well, I'm going to go over and help this man who's bleeding and in pain and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, as far as dealing with Dixon, I think the way he walked in and did that was actually a really good scene where everybody's like, ha ha ha, look how great I am. And he's like, well, I'm your new boss and I'm going to lay down the law and establish dominance right off the bat. Nugget?
I don't have anything. I wouldn't change anything.
You wouldn't change the tortoise in Dixon's mother's house to a larger tortoise?
I would have
tortoises?
More tortoises.
Do you think that's a callback?
They live in a free-range tortoise house. Like,
yeah.
They wanted to make that clear.
Do you think that's a callback to Sam Rockwell in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes.
He's the top thug of the Foot Clan who's trying to give the kids cigarettes and things like that. So. The other thing that I would change, as much as Sam Rockwell is in this movie, I would always add more Sam Rockwell. And that will be my change to every movie from here on out. More Sam Rockwell.
Even if he's not in it?
Even if he's not in it. More Sam Rockwell. He makes everything better.
We will start a petition to just 3D render Sam Rockwell into every movie.
Instead of deer, Sam Rockwell. There's got to be enough footage of him dancing that he can just be a background actor in every
just
club
scene. Background
scene.
Dancing actor. Doesn't make sense to the movie, but we'll just put him in it dancing.
He's just random extra in the background dancing or doing something. So that was 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, or at least our review of it. If you've seen it, let us know what you think of it. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry we just probably ruined a whole good chunk of the movie, but it's still worth seeing. You should definitely see it.
Definitely.
Make sure you leave comments about your thoughts on 3D rendered deer in movies or 3D rendered Sam Rockwell in movies. Which would you rather see, deer or Sam Rockwell?
That sounds like a new
answer.
poll.
That's a new poll. It will probably already be, by the time this comes out, I'm sure that will already be a poll on our YouTube stories. So check that one out. Leave comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about movies. Should we do more? Should we do less? Just tell us things. Just talk to us. If you want to just say hi, we'll say hi back, or something else weird and snarky. That's usually what happens. So, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.
See ya.